Hello, this is T West, and welcome to AfroSynergy. Mahmoud Jabril of Libya, the criminal. First, I would like to deal with an article by The Independent entitled "7 Fighters Die as Rival Militia Groups Clash in Libya." This is an article dated November the 14th, a current hot situation that's happening in Libya right now in the area of Tripoli. Rival militia groups clash outside Tripoli on yesterday in some of the most sustained violence since the death of former leader Muammar Gaddafi. At least 7 fighters have been killed so far in clashes which are taking place around Amaya, a former Gaddafi military base on the road that links Tripoli to the port city of Zawiya, around 30 miles from the capital. By yesterday afternoon, fighters loyal to the National Transitional Council were blocking the highway leading to the town and prohibiting journalists from moving further forward. The exact cause of the violence remains unclear, but there are reports that members of a tribe called the Wershafana were skirmishing with fighters from the town of Zawiya. Some say that the Wershafana had links with the former regime. There have also been rumors that Gaddafi's son, Saif al-Islam, is trying to organize an insurgency against the country's new rulers. Now, of course, these new rulers have been set up and established by the nations of Europe, NATO, and by members of the Arab League. Libya's interim leader, Mustafa Jalil, said yesterday that the National Transitional Council had established a committee to address the grievances from both sides, and that negotiations are taking place. The reality is that there has been ongoing fighting in Libya ever since the time that Muammar Gaddafi was assassinated. That fighting among the NATO rats has never stopped. There are many accusations from both sides. We do not know how many of the accusations are true, according to Mustafa Jalil. Mustafa Jalil is the traitor who was also with the Justice Department under Muammar Gaddafi. He betrayed Muammar Gaddafi, and he had been waiting and operating and working in a betrayal role for a very, very long time. Jalil told reporters a resolution had been reached. He indicates that I want to assure the Libyan people that everything is under control. Well, Jalil is known to be a liar, and he's lying in this instance as well. Things are not under control in Libya. He went on to say, Commander of the National Transitional Fighters, Abdul Hamid Kher, stated that some teenagers, they make problems. Well, these teenagers have been making problems since February, but directed by old men. They have destroyed much of Libya. You see the streets of many cities in Libya totally blown up, buildings destroyed, cities looking like Mogadishu in Somalia. This is what happens when you invite these devils in, as Libya has done. Kerr went on to state that most of the fighting is because of the young people. Well, most of the fighting anywhere in the world is done by the young people, but led and conducted by the old people, such as Jalil and Jabril. Libya's civil war has left the country awash with weapons, and tensions have run high between the multitude of armed groups in the country, very much like Somalia is today. Weapons and ammunition everywhere. The intent of the Europeans and the American corporate elite and the bankers, the Zionists, is to cause chaos within these countries. And then after you fight and kill each other, they will come in and finish you off and take your land and take your resources for nothing or very cheaply. Many who fought for the National Transitional Council have deeply felt grievances towards those from towns believed to have supported the former regime during the Civil War. That clearly will last for a very, very long time. And those countries that experience such will find it difficult, next to impossible, to conduct business. That means Libya, in spite of all of its oil, will be facing poverty. 2 weeks ago, fighting broke out between rival rebel groups in Tripoli's central hospital when fighters from the city of Misrata clashed with a brigade from the town of Zintan. Libya's incoming prime minister, Abdurrahim El-Qaib, has vowed to disarm the country and set up a national army, but has yet to announce a concrete timetable or form of government. The current leadership in Libya has already announced that they will have Sharia law, and we have already seen the Al-Qaeda flag flying at the top of the courthouse in Benghazi, the same courthouse where government soldiers and police were murdered, were butchered by the NATO rats. And there is no justice for that, and there will be no justice for that, because the National Transitional Council was behind that, just as they were behind the killing of the Frenchmen, as they were behind the killing of their own General Yusuf, as they were behind, along with NATO, the assassination of Muammar Gaddafi. So this new Prime Minister, Abdurrahim El-Qaib, has been trained and educated in the United States and has been in the United States for about 30 years. He is replacing Mahmoud Jabril, who was also educated in the United States in the area of economics. These traitors are the ones who are being set up by the bankers of Europe to run and control Libya, to sell out Libya, to put the Libyan people back into poverty as they were before Gaddafi took control in 1969. So these traitors, just like Alassane Ouattara in the Ivory Coast, have been trained by and educated by the United States to collude with them and to work and be enslaved, or to enslave the people of these countries to the bankers of Europe and the United States. They have then been reinserted back into their home countries to carry out the agendas of their banking masters in the United States or in the European Union. According to Mohammed Garish, a Libyan, he says Libya is very crazy now. He is a shipbroker from the northwestern city of Misrata. He then states that anything can happen. And that is where we are, ladies and gentlemen, where anything has been and will happen in Libya. The rape, the plunder, the decapitations, all happening under the watch and with the assistance of NATO. So it is, NATO is still reporting that 0 civilians have been killed by them in Libya. Well, we know that that is a lie. Here's the interview on CNN by Zakari of Mahmoud Jabril, the traitor of Libya.
Almost 2 months after rebel fighters stormed Tripoli and ousted Muammar Gaddafi from power, the man essentially running Libya announced he would resign. Mahmoud Jabril, the chairman of the executive board of Libya's National Transition Council, is a U.S.-educated economist and a former Gaddafi official. He is credited with garnering international support for NATO's March campaign, which played a key role in defeating Gaddafi. And now Jabril, once acting prime minister, has turned over his reign to a successor. potentially leaving the nation in a perilous transitional state. Welcome, Mr. Jabril.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here.
So the first thing I have to ask you is, why are you leaving at such a critical moment?
Well, I'm not leaving. I'm just trying to play a different role, and I think it's a more critical role, you know.
But you said when you sort of intimated your resignation, you said, look, in order to do my job, I need an army, I need functioning police, I need to be able to take control of this country, and I don't have any of that, so I'm leaving. That's a pretty bleak picture of how things are going in Libya.
Well, that's true to some extent. You see, the reason for that, I think we have started the political battle a little bit prematurely, you know. What happened by the liberation of Tripoli, all of a sudden the political competition started. We, who were involved in the liberation of Tripoli and the total Libyan territory, we were not prepared for that. Therefore, I thought I'm not equipped and I am not ready for such a political battle for the time being. And I thought probably a more important role is to devote my time and activity to develop those young people, women, and have them ready for election day.
So what you're describing is what many people fear in Libya, that you have a kind of free-for-all, that once you got rid of Gaddafi and once the regime fell, whatever even symbolic unity there was among the opposition is fracturing, and now you're seeing the Islamists on one side and other groups on the other, and tribal allegiances. How will this work itself out?
Well, I think this is an accurate diagnosis of the picture right now, you know. Hopefully, looking at the future and the future of our generations, of our kids, you know, will unify the people and make them focus on more important issues.
But your resignation surely is an act of frustration and a sense of disappointment with the people who are becoming powerful in Libya now. A lot of them are tribal leaders, some Islamic forces. Do you worry about the rise of political Islam in Libya? A very important leader said he wanted Sharia law in Libya.
I don't worry about the rise of any political thought, whether it's Islamist, whether it's liberal, any type of political thought, as long as that political thought prevails through elections, through the free will of the Libyans. This is the name of the game. Libyans should have a choice to choose their free government, their own leadership. If we reach this stage and Libyans decide, then it doesn't matter who's in power, whether it's Islamist forces, whether it's liberal, whether it's secular, any force, as long as it serves the interests of Libyans, I am all the way for that.
What do you think of what is going on in Syria? Watching as you did and helping organize the Libyan revolt, do you think the revolt in Syria can succeed?
I think Syria might move to the Libyan phase now, you know, because unfortunately Mr. Bashar al-Assad is following the Libyan model so far, you know. He should realize that this is not a successful model at all, you know. Just looking at the fate of Gaddafi, he should realize that the power is always rests with the people, and that history is always a
mistake to kill Gaddafi. Would you have preferred? And you're optimistic?
Oh, I am very much optimistic, because as long as there are young people and there are too many women in the street, you know, I think this is the new driving force of history, and I think they're going to prevail at the end.